Try HelloFresh UK to get 60% off your first box, 25% off for 2 months, and to, of course, help support this channel. Link is down in the description. Thank you for your support. Well, we're back at the end of a very busy week for matchday 16 Premier League predictions. Of course, slightly later than usual today because of the games on Thursday night. But we have got a full weekend fixture list to look forward to, and we'll have our quickfire predictions a bit later on. As always, I'll encourage you to do exactly the same. And if you beat or match my score, you will get a shout out in the next recap ahead of next weekend's fixtures. We'll also have a look back at what happened in midweek, how we got on with our predictions there. And most importantly, we're going to look ahead to Luton Town versus Manchester City, the Championship playoff winners versus the Premier League, Champions League and FA Cup winners. Another one of those surreal moments in this very bizarre Luton week. And to be fair, to look ahead to this game, we've got to look back at what happened in midweek because Luton almost stunned the leaders and certainly gave them a bigger test than they were expecting. A lot of the pre-match talk, as you will have seen on fan forums on social media and even in some of the punditry realms in the mainstream media, were about how many Arsenal were going to win by. But it didn't quite work out that way, did it? Luton managed to double the amount of goals that Arsenal have conceded away from home this season in a very cruel 4-3 defeat. You've got to say fair play to Arsenal because it's not luck that they've done that 4 times this season. The fact they keep winning games late on is a sign and a hallmark of a side that are going to go very close at the top this year. But you've also got to say that Luton exposed some pretty huge frailties. I thought Ross Barkley probably produced the best performance I've seen in my lifetime from someone in a Luton shirt. I know some slightly older than me will probably say Ricky Hill, and it's the closest feeling I'm probably going to get to it. But the way he sat Odegaard down 3 or 4 times, the way he broke away for the 3rd goal, and just the general control of the ball. And we need that creative spark, someone who's not afraid to take a risk. He's become absolutely pivotal in our plans and was sensational yet again on Tuesday night. Pelly alongside him did a lot of the dog's work to allow that to happen, so you've got to say fair play to him as well. And also, in an incredibly makeshift back three, we've got to praise Gabe Osho, who moved into the middle and again looked very solid for the most part. But it was a strong Luton performance. I think one of the big bits of news we have to take from it, and it's something I've been calling for a few weeks, was we wanted to see Adebayo start a game and see how he got on. It's taken a bit of unfair criticism at times this season, but I've got to be honest with you. I thought he was arguably a more constant threat than Morris, and certainly in terms of his ability to run the channels and also his ability to be a bit of a brute in the box. It really did work well for us, and as we saw from the 2nd goal, he overpowered David Raya. Now, I know the goalkeeper didn't cover himself in glory for either the 2nd or 3rd goal, but it was a very strong competitive Luton performance, and it's something I've mentioned a few times here. The fact we've got a constant attacking threat is a real positive, but we're going to have to be better defensively, and particularly when we're coming up against last season's champions and last season's top scorer in the league, because conceding 4 at home is not an ideal situation. And with that last-ditch goal, we do move back into the relegation zone, thanks to Everton's thumping of Newcastle on Thursday night. But there are definitely positives to take, but I stand by what I said a couple of weeks ago. The time Luton are going to be judged is after Bournemouth and Sheffield United. If we can pick up 2 wins in those games, then anything we get at home is a bit of a bonus and a free hit. And in the grand scheme of things, let's have a bit of perspective here. We have in 3 games this season been gutted to come away with a point against Liverpool, gutted to lose 4-3 to Arsenal, and devastated to have lost 1-0 at Old Trafford. I mean, in a grand scheme of things, we've got to bear in mind that this is a pretty ridiculous effort, and the reaction the team got at the end tells you everything. As long as they give everything for the cause, the Luton fans will stick with them. For Manchester City, though, maybe the most bizarre game we've seen for a good 3 or 4 years under Pep Guardiola. Because I don't know about you, I cannot remember a game, maybe since his first season in charge, where Manchester City have been completely outclassed. And that is without doubt what Aston Villa did to them. 2 shots in the whole game for City. I watched it on the TV and Aston Villa were just relentless. They were everything they were at home to us, to be fair. I said they were the best side I've seen on the road this season. And they were definitely that at home to City as well. A really strong performance from them. Probably should have been more than the 1-0 they eventually got. But a thoroughly deserved defeat for City. No winning 4 and a mini crisis. Ha ha. I think they'll bounce back from that this weekend. There's no doubt in that. But it is going to be interesting to see how City get on. We got the return of Grealish and the return of Rodri, both from suspension. Haaland will get a bit more service as a result of that, you suspect. But it was just a bit of a weird setup for City with sort of 6 recognised defenders on the pitch, Stones playing the holding role, Lewis a bit further forward. And in the end, we saw that box midfield from Aston Villa really dominate them for the most part. So it's going to be interesting for City with Rodri coming in to see whether that's going to stop the threat of Ross Barkley, because of course getting out from centre midfield is where we had most of our joy against Arsenal. But we are going to have to be strong from set pieces because City have got an absolutely brutal team. And we saw even at the end of our game how frail we can be from long balls into the box ourselves. So something we've got to be wary of. They've got the height in defence, in the fullback areas, in Rodri, and in Haaland, of course, up front. So it is going to be one hell of a test. And to say the European champions and treble winners are coming to town in a league fixture is absolutely brilliant. So let's enjoy the day. Let's try and give them a game. And a bit like where Arsenal left on Tuesday night, if they go away relieved they've got the points, then the Luton boys have done their job. That's how I see it. As it is though, despite the fact we've been pretty competitive, I do feel it's going to be hard for us to take advantage of City because they have got such physicality in defence, which is something we normally rely on taking advantage of. And with Rodri back in that holding role, it's going to be a lot harder to break through from midfield. So I think our best hope probably is keeping people like Ogbene wide. I wonder if he'll play him back in the team and maybe on the right this time and go for a natural left footer on the left in Chong or in Townsend, because where City go inverted and they narrow the pitch a little bit, I just wonder if their left back area is the place we can maybe take advantage. But then we see Kyle Walker at right back. Maybe Ogbene will have to be deployed to deal with him. You just don't know. So for this game, I do have to go for a Manchester City win. It would be foolish to go for anything else, but I do still think we'll be fairly competitive, and I'm not willing to predict us to lose by more than 2 because we've been competitive in most games this season. We know if City find their stride and get into form early on, it can be a very long day for any team. And they're only one good day with their shooting boots on away from a 5 or 6-0 victory. But on this occasion, partly due to Save of the Month winner Thomas Kaminski being between the sticks and the likes of Nakamba and Lokonga being back fit, I wonder if we're going to see a very defensive setup, and as a result, the damage will be limited. I don't think we're going to get a goal in this one, sadly. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Manchester City, which would still be fairly respectable. But with that out the way, let's move on to our matchday 16 predictions in full for the Premier League weekend fixture list. And to do that, we've got to have a quick look back first at what happened in the midweek edition. Because I was a little bit disappointed in the end. Thursday night ruined my chances at double figures, and in the end I had to settle for 8 points overall. I got a perfect score for the Brighton victory by 2-1 against Brentford, and 5 other correct outcomes with Wolves, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Manchester United, and just about that Arsenal victory taking me to 8. And in the end, that won me the match day because the highest person in the comments got 7 points. So no shout outs this week. Nobody managed to beat my score. And it did mean I caught up a bit in the Super 6 League as well. But as always, you've got another chance to beat me this weekend. Let me know what your score predictions are for matchday 16. And as you do that, I'll run through my ones for this weekend. And I've gone for a fair few goals, particularly on the Saturday. So we start with Crystal Palace Liverpool, the lunchtime kickoff. Is Roy Hodgson going to be under pressure soon? Are the Palace fans going to be spoilt into a brilliant occasion? Well, I don't think so. I think Liverpool will win 3-1. They weren't brilliant against Sheffield United in the week, but they're efficient, they're getting the victories, and again, I fancy them to do the same. I'm banking on Brighton to beat Burnley by 4-1 because Burnley, when they do concede a couple early, when they do come up against relentless pressing sides, they have struggled a little bit. They're obviously without Koleosho now for several months due to injury, another big blow for them too. Without Lyle Foster up front, we've seen their goal threat has really dried up in recent weeks. So I've given them a goal because Brighton are so expansive, but I think Brighton will overrun them in this one. I've gone for United to beat Bournemouth by 3-1. Bournemouth doing brilliantly in recent weeks. Fair play to the manager who's proved me wrong. But Manchester United, one of their best performances of the season at home to Chelsea. Need to back it up for the second successive game. Get Scott McTominay in advanced positions would be my advice. Sheffield United won Brentford 2. A slightly better performance from Chris Wilder, Sheffield United, but while they didn't go under, they had a few attacking threats on the counter, which Brentford probably won't give them in their setup. That extra defender will make it a little bit more difficult, and I feel Brentford will have too much, particularly when it comes to set pieces, delivery into the box, and counter-attacking quality, which is something Sheffield United do struggle with a bit. Wolves v Nottingham Forest, I've gone for a 1-1 draw because Steve Cooper needs a response. I do feel it's a bit strange he's under pressure. I know they've not had the best run of games, but I still feel they've got a much bigger chance of going down without him at the helm. Aston Villa at home to Arsenal is game of the weekend. You feel like the home winning run has to come to an end for Villa at some point, and Arsenal are the best away team in the league despite their struggling performance at Kenilworth Road. They've had the extra day off as well, but I've got to be honest with you here. Having won 14 on the bounce at home and having watched Arsenal on Tuesday, I have to go for Villa. Whether or not I think it will be that way, a draw potentially more likely. I'm going to go for Villa to nick it 2-1. Everton produced a brilliant performance against Newcastle, whereas Chelsea did much the opposite of United. I've gone for a 0-0 draw in this one, just because Everton haven't had many ruthless days in front of goal at home this season, and they had one on Thursday night. Are they going to have 2 in a row? I'm not sure. I feel this one could be a bit of a stalemate. Fulham v West Ham, what a victory for the Hammers on Thursday night. Classic counter-attacking play, and while there was a bit of fortune, they did everything a David Moyes side does well. They battled hard, they fought for the ball, they were throwing in blocks everywhere towards the end. I'm going to bank on them to win 1-0 at Fulham, and very much the same case for Fulham. Not often fluent in front of goal since Mitrovic has left, and having scored 5 in midweek, I think that'll be an anomaly, and they'll draw a blank on Sunday. In the penultimate game, you know what I've gone for Luton City, 2-0 for the visitors. And the final game of the match day, Spurs v Newcastle. Both sides had a very poor midweek. Spurs have had 5 poor games now. Newcastle, they're just running out of players. And I'll be honest with you, I was going to go for a draw in this game until I watched on Thursday night. But considering how leggy they looked in the second half, and given the fact that Nick Pope's out, Dubravka didn't look as secure. I just feel Spurs will have too much going forward because they've not always taken their chances in recent games, but they've still been creating. So attacks will beat defence in this one, and Spurs will win by 3-1. So those are my predictions for matchday 16. Do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know in the comments below and give me your predictions for the weekend fixtures. As I mentioned earlier, if you beat or match my score, you will get a shout out in the next recap. It's going to be a very busy week on the channel as well. We had our championship predictions for the weekend yesterday. They're up in the eye above. And there's another midweek fixture list coming. So we'll be back with them again on Sunday afternoon. We've also got plenty of manager specials around the corner. 3 championship clubs currently looking for a new person. So we'll wait and see who they all appoint. And me and Craig will be back to run through it. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, please do put a thumbs up on the video, subscribe and turn that notification bell on for regular new content, and to make sure you don't miss any of what's coming up. We might even have a little festive ramble around the corner, so keep your eyes peeled for that too. It's also the final few days of our partnership with HelloFresh. You can find a link in the description for 60% off your first box. Thank you to everyone who's got involved with that so far. And we'll see you back here on Sunday afternoon as we're back with more midweek championship predictions.